Well, everybody, welcome back to Rhythm and Resilience. It's been so much fun the last month bringing great guests to you, and today's going to be no different. I wanted to let you know that we're going to have Dr. Patrick Porter with us today, and I'll introduce him in just a minute. And then we'll have Cynthia Newsom, who's a local TV personality, will be on our Friday show. So as we get started, what I want to do is remind everybody to put their stuff on mute so that's good to go. But I want to start with a quote, and we're coming off Mother's Day weekend, and I love this quote. Good friends are like stars. You don't always see them, but you know they're always there. You know they're always there. And that's kind of how I feel about Dr. Patrick Porter. We've been on a journey together a little over 4 years, and I actually got hurt on that bicycle accident about 5 years ago. And the following year, somebody told me about BrainTap, and oddly enough, they told me about it. I met the people in Kansas City who did a lot with it, and then I went to Dallas to get treated at cerebrum centers for the brain, and next thing you know, they were using it. Patrick, how crazy is that? That's like a serendipitous or a God wink moment that some of us would say. So for all of you joining me today, let me tell you about Patrick Porter. He's the BrainTap creator. He's got his Ph.D. He began his journey into the science of calming the brain at age 12. So this is good not only for you, but it's also good for your kids. When his father taught him a relaxation method to help him and his 8 siblings. Patrick Porter soon recorded his first visualization on a cassette recorder and used it to transform himself from a self-professed struggling student and storied troublemaker into a 3-sport athletic captain, as well as an honor roll student. Today, Dr. Porter and his team of scientists and mindfulness experts are leading the way in brainwave entrainment technology. In the process, they've made BrainTap Technologies a global leader in the personal improvement field with a library of more than 400 guided audio programs. BrainTap allows you to relax, reboot, and revitalize while achieving peak brain performance. I want you to know that I know it works because I personally use it. This is my home device right here, and I have used it a lot in my recovery from my head injury. So Dr. Porter, welcome to Small Changes, Big Shifts, Creating Rhythm and Resilience.
Well, thank you for having me, Michelle. It's great to be here.
Well, so talk a little bit more. How was your father was on the forethought to get you to think about it at the age 12, because it looks like you're about 28 now. So just a few years ago, right?
Yeah, there you go. Well, my dad was actually, he got help from our church because the nun, our sister Barbara, and Father Fitzpatrick did a course called the Silva Method, which taught the ultra relaxation seminar. And my dad, it helped him quit drinking just by learning to relax. And then he thought, wow, if this can help me quit drinking and help my family maybe avoid the alcoholic syndrome that happens. Of course, with our family, it was very good. 8 of us made it through okay. 1 is still kind of struggling. Every once in a while we hear about him, but that's pretty good odds compared to what it usually is from an alcoholic parent. So we've done pretty well. And he taught us all very young how to meditate, relax, basically visualize what we want out of our life instead of what we get all the time.
Well, it's interesting you said visualize. So I'm cleaning out, I'm doing a lot of purging like a lot of people are right now with my extra moments. I have a saying, make the time count. So I'm making the time count, and I actually pulled out my book, PsychoCybernetics by Maxwell Waltz. You've read that book before?
Yeah, my dad, one of the things we did growing up was my dad, when we got in trouble, we didn't get in trouble like most people. PsychoCybernetics was one of the books we'd have to read if we got in trouble, or Think and Grow Rich, or As a Man Thinketh. Almost every positive book of that time, my dad, and then we had to tell my dad how we were going to apply it in order to go out and play. So a lot of it was storytelling to my dad. But after a while, if you do it enough, it's gonna catch on. I mean, I probably read As a Man Thinketh about 100 times because I didn't get it at first. You know, I was always in trouble. So, you know, that's what he taught me. And then, of course, now we have the BrainTap, but then we were just doing our own visualizations with it.
So for any of those listeners, the first one that kind of emails me says, you know what, I want your PsychoCybernetics book. It is a relic. It is easily 30 years old because my chiropractic coach, my basketball coach back in college suggested that I watch it. And he talked about if you want to have a good shot, you've got to just visualize, visualize, visualize. So it's funny to be having this conversation with you 30 plus years later, Patrick. Mm-hmm. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, Dan Kennedy actually rewrote that book so they can get it now. It's been re-updated. Yeah. Dan Kennedy rewrote it because I often tell people that's a great starter book to learn. And they do tell the story about the basketball visualizations in there, which is really good.
Well, that's so crazy. I did not know it's been rewritten. I also have the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich. So there you go. There's a couple books. I'm purging my books, and just such great information. Talk about BrainTap. Actually, talk about why you named it BrainTap, because people are always thinking, is that tapping or, you know?
Right. Well, the big thing is that we all know that we don't use our full brain's potential. And so what we're talking about is tapping into our brain's potential. So when we think about, we're using what we call frequency switching technology. So we're going to switch the frequency. When you're in a stress mode, for instance, you're in a sympathetic mode, let's say, or what we call the fight or flight brain or survivor brain, how you want to think about it. And most people get stuck there. So we want to tap into our brain's potential to unlock the brain's healing brain, which is the parasympathetic system and the relaxation response and all those things. So and then of course, over the years, we've had many different names for different devices. And then this time we kind of had a brainstorm about what we should do 4 years ago, or actually now it's been 5 years. And they said, you should call it BrainTap. We used to call it mind fitness, but everybody seems to be using that term now. So it wasn't something that could, part of it was marketing too, I guess you could say, but the main thing is that we want to tap into somebody's brain's potential. Everybody has more potential than they use. Just for an understanding for everybody on the call, everybody uses 100% of their brain. They just don't use 100% of the brain's potential. So there's a big misunderstanding. People say, I only use 10% of my brain. No, everybody uses 100% of their brain. They don't use the full potential of their brain. So that's how it's kind of signified.
So Patrick, talk about the different parts of the brain.
Okay. Well, the first part that most people are familiar with now that separates us from most of the animals is the frontal lobe. That makes up 40% of our brain. And typically what happens is when people try to meditate or relax, they actually agitate that part of the brain. When we put people on brain mapping software and we can see what their brain's doing during meditation before they're trained, they actually get stressed out by doing meditation, the exact opposite of what you want, because when you close your eyes, you're in a kind of a battle with, that kind of instructs your brain. It says, okay, frontal lobe, shut down. We're going to go to sleep. Or, if we go to a movie and we're scared, we usually close our eyes and say, oh, it's just a movie. That's to shut off our frontal lobe. But also we need to keep that going. And we also have different parts of the brain. For instance, we mostly work with frequencies, which is how the brain frequencies work. And those frequencies are in different parts of the brain. But the key thing is that we need to get people out of their beta brain. So if you can kind of think with me, beta is your reactionary mind. So if you've ever been in an argument with somebody and then later you said, I wish I could have said something different or done something different. Well, at the time, I guarantee you couldn't have said or done anything differently because you were in a brain state where you were just reacting. So that's why every athlete, every actor or actress rehearses and practices and prepares for those moments on stage where most people don't do that in their own life. And then we need to get you into when the switch happens, we need to get somebody into the alpha theta. When you think of people like Einstein, Edison, Elon Musk, all these people like that, they tap into this creative part of our nature. And that's where alpha and theta comes in. And each of these brain states create neurotransmitters. So if you think about alpha, it creates acetylcholine. If you think about theta, it creates GABA. These are two neurotransmitters that the pharmaceutical industry is trying to figure out how they can make them so that they can, first of all, patent them and then sell them back to us. But let's say that you're with for me, yesterday, I was with my grandkids. I probably produced $30,000 worth of acetylcholine and GABA while I was playing with them on the beach. Because, I'm having fun, laughing, running, doing whatever. So my brain's going to create those because our brain is the most powerful pharmacy on earth. So if we can turn off the stress brain and turn on that healing brain, you can be your own pharmacy. And that's really the biggest part of the brain we want people to tap into. And when you think about whether it be the reticular activating system, which is in the primitive brain, which a lot of people think of, that primitive brain also is the part that resonates gamma. So that's probably important for everybody on the call here. Gamma is 40 hertz frequency. So that means it sends a beat frequency through the brain at 40 hertz. As we get better looking and more intelligent with age, something happens to that brainwave. Okay, so what happens is it starts to atrophy because of lack of use. You know, as we become more robotic, doing the same thing, that's why being creative or having fun, exercise, moving, our body is designed to breathe and move. And if we don't breathe and move, then our brain becomes very robotic. And so we need to unplug that robotic nature, let's say, and be more fluid. We call it being in the flow. And that happens with gamma. What's so important about that is that's what's going to help us to correlate and go after our memories. I'll share one research project with everyone so they'll know, because we did this with women 55, 65 with a chiropractor down in Florida. His name was Kelly Miller. He's actually from your area, originally from Kansas City. And he's now in Florida now, but he goes back and forth. But he wrote a book called Saving Your Brain. And what we did is we said, hey, what would happen if we expose these people to light, sound, and vibration, which is the brain tapping system, and then measured their brain activity. And most of these women, unfortunately, they were all diagnosed with dementia. They took the testing that said, hey, these people are diagnosed with dementia. Their medical doctors diagnosed them with dementia. And so when we did the treatment, it was only BrainTap, a minimum of 3 times a week. They could do it every day if they wanted to, and most did because they got a benefit from it. But after 6 weeks, we had 64% more neuroplasticity at the end of the study. None of the women were on the dementia spectrum anymore. And which meant that what 64% neuroplasticity means is that they're able to transact information 64 times faster than they were before.
Wow.
Now, the thing about the brain, when you talk about how does the brain work, what was happening with the brain was one hemisphere was slowing down before the other. And typically, as we grow older, the left hemisphere will slow down before the right hemisphere. This causes anxiety, stress, frustration. And our memories, when we think of a memory, most people have this idea that we go back to a filing cabinet in our brain and we get a memory. That doesn't happen at all. What happens is 6 to 9 places in your brain are activated to represent a memory in our consciousness. So it's not just one place. So if there's a lag time of even a nanosecond between the information flow from the right brain to the left brain, that interrupt is infinite time for the brain, because the brain is the speed of thought, not the speed of light. But so there's a miscommunication there. And when that happens, that's when the anxiety and fear and worry comes in. So what we're going to do is we're going to help synchronize that brain. Now, meditation alone can do this. I mean, you can do this on your own if you want to do some breathing exercises, relax. We also know, because I work with a lot of chiropractors, and we know that when a chiropractor makes an adjustment, because we've had them hooked up to an EEG machine while we do an adjustment, we see the whole brain rewire and organize around that adjustment, and it becomes whole, at least for a certain period of time. It could be 24 hours, it could be 48 hours. Usually the nervous system, whatever adjustment or whatever technology, whatever, even a massage, it's going to last about 72 hours, the main peak of that experience. If we do it over time, that's why we were doing it 3 times a week. If we do it over time, the new set point for the nervous system changes, and we begin to function better. So it's all about getting our nervous system to function. And of course, now with what's going on, it's super important to have our nervous system functioning because of something called psychoimmunology, which means your thoughts, your emotions actually trigger your immune system. So probably the best thing anybody on this call can do is turn off the news. Get your news in the morning and then don't look at it again until tomorrow morning. So you have a chance to, if you sit in front of the TV all day, your brain's just going to run those programs and you're going to lose hope, unfortunately. So you want to stay very positive and very optimistic, but you want to be aware too. I understand that you can't just live in a box. Although I let my wife tell me what's happening on the news because she's more involved in that than I am. But myself, I just feel like mostly it's a waste of time. But so I hope that explains what you're asking, Michelle.
Well, I want to dive deeper on a couple things. You brought up the nervous system, and I'm a chiropractor. The nervous system is my jam, and we know the nervous system works because of your thoughts and because of the way you feel your body. That's why it's so important to look at your system from a whole person health perspective. It's the reason why I live my life from the quadrants of well-being. You know, I get adjusted, I exercise, I get sleep, I eat the right foods, I take the right supplements. Sometimes I eat sugar, no lie, that happens. Emily makes great cookies, gluten-free, dairy-free, but they're not sugar and butter-free. And then, you know, you think about what are some tools you can use, whether it's acupuncture or Epsom salt soaks or whatever you need to do. Patrick, one reason I like the BrainTap technology, and the reason it stuck with me the first time, and I want to tell you in total transparency, I did another technology about 60 days ago, one of the new fancy ones that's out. I'm not going to say the name on air, but I did it. And I went to myself, I said, well, you know, you paid 4 times as much for this technology and you have a BrainTap device at home. And my benefits here were so much different. So what I love about this technology, I want to just kind of hold my headset up. So you have lights around the ears. And so the quadrants of well-being philosophies from a guy named Dr. Richard Yenny, which you probably know that name, which is, you know, kind of helped bring acupuncture to America. Talk about what the lights do around the ears, and not just listen. Some people listen to an app, and there's nothing wrong with listening to the Calm app. That's a piece to the puzzle, but it's just a piece of this technology.
Right. So what happens, what we found out about 5 years ago, we were working with autistic children, and we said, what can we do to get autistic children to relax? And the problem is that you can't give them instruction like I can say to an adult or something like that. So we had to come up with a frequency. What's the best way to deliver that frequency response? And I met up with some chiropractors that were using acupuncture in the ear meridians, because we have meridians in the ears that basically you run energy through your body all the time. And this highway of energy that moves through your body, if it's stuck and they touch a certain place in your ear and it's painful, then they know that's an area of your body that has a disorder or something like that. Now, they were using lasers to do this. So I thought, well, we can't put a laser there because you'd have to hire somebody to stand there and put the laser in the ear. So we wanted to, how many millijoules, that means how much light can we project into the ear and give the same dosage as a laser treatment? And how can we get coverage over the ears? So we put 9 lasers in there, and they're red and blue because those 2 light frequencies actually can reset the gut biome. So it seems kind of weird, but everything's connected. And I know you know that, Michelle, but everything's connected in the body. And we have these highway systems. So some people will say, why did my ears get warm, or my right ear get warm and my left ear didn't? There's no heat being generated. We're actually photic beings. We absorb light all the time. All of our hormonal system, basically our whole body is designed to work with the light from our sun. That's why we have seasonal affective disorder in that. What we did is we said, Dr. Nogier, who's also, he did something called iridology, which he's an acupuncturist too. They would do it with sound. So we do it with a frequency and we do it with light. That light looks like it's solid when you're looking at it, but it's actually flashing at 297 times per second. And of course, we can't see that with our human eye, but the brain can. Our brain is a supercomputer. Remember, a 100 billion neural processor. It processes and loves patterns. So it recognizes that pattern. That light pattern gets put into the ears. The ears then, the next place, what happens in the ears is if you've ever cut your ear, you know how hard it is to get it to stop because the pressure in your ear is so great. So the blood in your whole body circulates every 45 seconds. But it takes almost 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, depending upon how your blood flow through your ears are, to get the blood to go through your ears. So that's a perfect place to do what we call blood doping. So we can put the ears absorb the photon, the blood, I should say, the hemoglobin absorbs the photon, circulates through the body. And what happens with light is it creates vasodilation, blood flow, circulation. This hemoglobin that's charged now with photons circulates first to the brain. That's why you could use it. That's why they use it at all these different concussion places around the country, like Life University and down in Dallas where you went. Is because we want to get light into the brain, but sometimes we can't put the massive amounts through the eyes. We still do a little bit through the eyes. We use 470 nanometer light, which is very safe. You can actually have your eyes open while you're doing it. But what we want to do is we want to get light into the brain. The secret to that is there's 3 reasons that people get sick, right? And this is kind of a chiropractic principle that is true for everything. It could be traumas, toxins, or thoughts. So we have these toxins in our brain, and our brain is designed to only detox at night while we sleep. So you mentioned sleep earlier. Sleep is your magic weapon. It's your superpower. If you sleep, you're going to have superpowers the next day. If you don't sleep, you're going to be like kryptonite hits you or something. So we want to make sure people sleep. But if you don't get level 4 sleep, so we're training the brain to go to level 4 sleep while you're sleeping, that's when your body detoxes. Now, if you're on this call and you've ever woke up at night and you couldn't move, you woke up in the middle of a cleaning cycle. It happens usually 5 to 7 times every night when you sleep. Now, everywhere there's a blood vessel, take you back to anatomy class, everywhere you have a blood vessel, you also have a lymphatic vessel. So that lymphatic vessel is the garbage system, or the garbage man of the system, or garbage person. It's going to carry the toxins out. But if you've got damaged brain, then what happens is there's too much garbage to take out. So there's no room to clean. So we got to build new neural pathways. We also have to build new let's say, resources to carry the toxins out. That happens with blood flow and circulation. That's what the light is doing. And we're the only company that does that because we have a patent on it. And we deliver it. Now, what happens is people will say, why don't I have pain in my knee anymore? Why don't I have pain in my elbow anymore? Well, we worked on the ear. And as weird as that sounds, with acupuncture, if you know how to use that, you can do that. We have people that have sent me pictures where they've got needles, like 1,000 needles on somebody while they're doing BrainTap, because they found that while they're running that energy through, what happens is your body produces something called ATP. And ATP, just in a simple terms, is the currency of the body. So if you want to transact health and transact your body healing, you need this ATP production. Light does that. Now, we use sound as well in relationship with that, because sound is a driver. So when you think of your brain, think of an electrical system. In order for us to measure the brain, we need to use very sophisticated probes that go on the brain, and we can measure what's happening in the brain. But we can also figure it out from the heart. So when you think about your heart has a brain. 40 nanos cell technology in you have a heart brain. They now know that. That heart brain actually controls the system, not this one. That's why there's more heart attacks on Monday morning than any other day of the week, because their heart's not in it. But what we know is if we can get the nervous system to balance, this is again while I work a lot with chiropractors, once the nervous system's balanced, now we can get the brain wiring and firing around that change. The physiological change now becomes, orchestrates this change. And now the nervous system says, this is normal for me now. So that's why, like there's actually a 20-minute golden window that Heidi Havoc, who does a lot of research in this field in New Zealand, has found that when they do a BrainTap session right afterwards, you'll get longer term results, because the adjustment was made, but they didn't get a chance for it to settle in. They walked out and they got in their car or whatever. So this light is a very important part. Now you can do it with just the app too. I mean, we do it with the sound because the vibrations are still going through there. Think of sound as it would take about 3 of the same sessions to get the same results we get with the light sessions. So we're in 140 countries. So most of them do not have our headset because we can't ship into those countries. So they're just using our app to do that. But if you have a chance to do the app, you'll notice the difference at that point.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the device and BrainTap in just a second. And you're talking to one of the smartest guys I've ever talked to about the brain, Dr. Patrick Porter, who's a Ph.D. If you have questions, now's a great time to ask. What I love about doing this show live now is people can ask questions. And I'm getting schooled on the brain, and I know quite a bit about it. So Tom asked a question. Hey, Tom, the 2 books that we started out with were PsychoCybernetics, and Think and Grow Rich. Patrick, those are the 2 we talked about. Was there another book you mentioned at the beginning?
No, those are the 2, I think.
Those are the 2. Okay. And by the way,
also As a Man Thinketh. It's
As a Man Thinketh.
Helen, yeah, that's a good book too. It's a very easy book to read.
Yeah, I have the first 2 available. They're relic copies though. You have to know that. So Patrick, so you mentioned that you have the app, and for those of you on the call, if you want to find out more information, put your email in or send me an email afterwards. Laura Fitzsimmons, who's actually our nurse educator at Your Wellness Connection, runs our BrainTap division, and she could walk you through this. She and I both have our own personal experience with it. I'll let her tell you about that, but she'll get to you if you want to reach out to me, and I'll connect you with Laura. She can set you up with a 30-day trial, 15 to 30-day trial of the app, because it is a paid app. As well as you can maybe come in and do a BrainTap session with the headset if you'd like. like. Right now, you may just say, I'm going to do the app for a while. Patrick, I'm going to go back to the headset because once again, I didn't cheat on BrainTap. I was getting more information because it's my job when people come to talk to me about different technologies that I can say I know about it. And so I do want to tell you that I feel like I maybe wasted my money since I already had this device. Because we talked about the ear device, you talk about the light device. Why is light in the eye so important? Because I've got a new office at home, and I'm looking at some of the technology that people have sent me. But this combines everything.
Yeah, we combined as much as we could because I'm a junkie too. I probably have that machine you're talking about. Because I don't think we have the end of the world machine. We have a device right now that I put together for me to use. And because I know how well it works, I get it to people. But the light in the eyes are important. They call it retinal flashing. It really is going to cranial nerve 2. So what's happening is the brain picks up on the flash, and that flash tells the brain something's going on there. And that activates this reticular activating system. That's the part of the brain that really needs to be re-educated. You have to remember too that you are controlled by 95% of your subconscious, not your conscious mind. Most people are trying to change their world by changing that 5%. And that's like the tail wagging the dog, they say. So you can attempt to change that, but Stanford University and Harvard both did research studies, and they showed that it takes 18 months to create a change if you don't use visualization and relaxation techniques. Most people have heard the term 21 days for a change. That's because they didn't read the rest of the study. The study said if you use visualization and relaxation techniques, it takes 21 days. If you don't, our studies show it takes 18 months. Now, I don't know about you, most people aren't dedicated enough to do anything for 18 months if they're not seeing a real result. So we want it fast, we want it free, we want a limo to pick us up to get our winnings. You know, that's the way it kind of works in America. So that's how everything goes. So in the process here, what we did was we said, how can we affect the brain? Back in the 80s, when I was fortunate, I'm the one that my team, I was one of 6 people. We invented the very first one of these machines. There was never a machine like this until we created it, or I should say a portable one, a little one. Our big one that we had at our office was designed by the doctor that we were working with, and it was called the Sills. It was $10,000 back in the 80s. So, you know, I don't know what that'd be equivalent to today, but it'd be a lot. And so nobody could afford that, but it got really good results, and I had to run it all by hand, which meant I would get feedback from the brain. I would make the adjustments. I'd get feedback from the brain. I'd make the adjustments. It was very laborious. I could only see one person at a time. And I said, we've got to do something about this because, first of all, nobody can afford this. And it's too labor intensive. And it was the size of a microwave. So you couldn't really do much. Now with technology, we can put it all in the headset. So what we found with the light in the eyes, we couldn't do anything but use old school lights before that. Most of you have probably seen people meditating to candles, or, you know, you look at a candle and it flickers. Well, the candle flickering, we now know in science that it flickers at 10 hertz frequency. That just happens to be alpha. It just happens to be where people need to meditate. So when in India, which I go to quite often, they call it a jyoti meditation. So they sit and meditate, they look at the candle. That's because our brain is designed, or our nervous system is more apt. Our nervous system is very adaptive. So let's say we walk into a cold room, we begin to shiver to try to warm up our body. If it's too warm, we begin to sweat. And those are just things that most people know about, but the body is always adapting. So it takes that frequency response from the candle and flickers and goes into relaxation. We said, wow, how can we imitate that? Well, they call it biohacking now. We didn't know that term at the time, but what we did was we said, if we could mimic a candle, well, just about 4 years before that, they came out with something called an LED, light emitting diode. And it was red light at that time, which we don't recommend using now, but at the time, that's the only LED we had. And we could actually alter people's brain waves by having them be exposed to this light flickering they call it flickering frequency following response. So this flickering response in the eyes, the brain, what you see in your right eye is actually controlled by your left brain and vice versa. So when we do that, we can balance the hemispheres. If you remember earlier when I told the story about the women in the study, one hemisphere was moving slower than the other. We actually designed specific sessions that clinicians like Dr. Michelle there can use at her office. If she has a device that measures it, she could use these. We have over we actually have over 1,000 sessions now. I know at the beginning you said 400, but we designed over 300 just for neurofeedback, but it's advanced neurofeedback. You don't have to do anything anymore. And we know the brain will follow it, but we have to have that light piece in there, the eyes. And the biggest thing is, most of you have probably been to a lecture and you couldn't hear the lecturer, but then you adjusted your line of sight. As soon as you saw the lecturer, you could hear them. You probably didn't know this, but your eyes are responsible for 30% of your hearing. So if you close your eyes, you just shut off 30% of your brain's potential. But if you have flickering response at a certain rhythm and cadence, now our light is not at this, it's not never the same. Every second it's changing to something. It might look the same, might look like it's flashing the same, just like the ear lights look like they're solid. They're not. It's an algorithm that we've done for years, and we've consulted with a doctor out of Moscow that actually, his name is Dr. Kaplan, and he's the leading authority in brainwave entrainment. In what they do is they know how to take brainwaves in his university and translate it into language. So pretty soon, people that can't speak will be able to think the thought, and the machine will generate the thought. And so he said this, so he helped us. He said, if you want to go from being wide awake, which is called beta, into a deep state of meditation, or like meditation, it's not truly meditation like somebody doing TM or something like that. But what happens is, to get you there into that same brainwave state, we know the algorithm that's the safest and fastest to get you there. And then we train you. So like, let's say somebody's coming into Michelle's office and you want to de-stress. We have 13 sessions. If they listen to those in a row, by the time they get to the 13th session, they'll be able to relax down to the deep level of theta in less than 2 minutes. And that will take about 12 weeks, but we've never seen it fail. When we've put people on, the nice thing is everyone's brain, unless there's something organically wrong with it, learns the same way. So we're going to use this frequency following response, and we need that light to do it. Now, we don't need blue light specifically that we use. We just use blue light because it's the safest. And I know you might have heard a lot of bad news about blue light, but I'm telling you that it's pretty much all wrong. 20% of the population is blue light sensitive, and they're light sensitive. They're not blue light sensitive. They're just light sensitive. So at night, you might want to tone it down, or you wear little things like this. You know, I have these that I wear on my computer at night, if I'm on my computer after 6 o'clock, because the computer blue light is much different than the blue light. Ours is tuned to a healing frequency. In fact, some women have told us they've lost the crow's feet because it's the same light they use at healing spas to regenerate the skin for women, or men can use it too, but it's mostly women that are going into those spas. So, but that's not why we did it. It's because it's the safest.
Well, someone asked me today, what am I doing not to have wrinkles? Maybe that's part of it. Now that more reason to use my headset more. So I want to ask you a couple questions, and I want to remind our listeners that it's a good time to ask your questions as we start to make the turn in the show here. Mm-hmm. Patrick, I want to come back to the immunology, yeah. Psychoimmune after we get through this question here. Okay. So Patricia asked, how is it used for autistic children, BrainTap technology?
Well, almost every autistic child, I would say 100% that I've brain scanned, and also Joquita Handy, who's probably our biggest researcher in autism. She lives in Orange County, California. We found that autistic, not just children, but just people in general that are on the spectrum of autism, they have little or no alpha activity. Now, what that means is they can't talk. Because if you don't have alpha, think of these different brainwaves that I talked about, like Wi-Fi networks. And if you don't have one of them, you could have an appliance sitting there, but you don't have a transmitter or receiver. So what happens is when we're talking, and she's a speech pathologist. So she contacted me after she took some training from me from Quantum University, which I'm the dean of brain-based medicine there. And when she went through the program, she got a BrainTap, and she didn't really feel like she needed it. So she started using it with her patients. And she said, wow, the kids it's like they're knocking them out, because an autistic child, if you've ever seen them, they're stimming, right? They have all this energy. They don't know what to do with that energy. Your body is an electric circuit. And if there's no way to ground that energy, then it disrupts things. And that's what's happening with the autistic child. If they're in theta, which is the deep state, they become disassociated. That's why people like Robert Melillo wrote the book, Disassociated Kids. What we need to do is train them to get more alpha. And what we find is typically within a 10-week program with autism, they're now speaking, they're functioning. Some of them actually get taken off the spectrum just because they've included alpha. Now, it's not just BrainTap, I should tell you that, because she's a doctor and she does other things, but we're one of the protocols that work with that. And we do a lot with Autism One, which is an organization that sponsors that. And there's also a group, we did a research study, which I thought was very revealing. There's a group called Thinking Mothers Revolution. And it's a group of mothers that decided they weren't going to listen to the medical doctors that told them their kids couldn't heal. You know, there's a group of people out there that feel like if you're an autistic child, that's it. You're doomed for life. You've got to take these pills and do these things. The amazing thing we found out in our research, and Joquita now, she won't work with anyone who will keep their kids on medicine. And the reason is we found out that as long as their brain was on the medicine, we couldn't change their brain. But working with their medical doctor, as soon as we could get them off the medicine, their brain changed. Because the brain will pattern after, the brain is very selfish. It uses a lot of energy, 25% of the resources of the body. So if it can get away without doing the work, it's going to do it. And that's what the medicines do. Now, the medicines are basically not doing anything for the child, but they're basically making them more compliant for the teachers or for the parents. So there is a little bit of work there at first. So that's the big thing. But we're finding that the children love it. Most children love the patterns, and especially autistic children, they love patterns. So when they put it on, they get knocked out. And with the Thinking Mothers Revolution, what we did is we said, you know, you probably don't know this, but you have PTSD. And they said, what do you mean? Well, if I had to wake up every morning and I had a child that had autism, that's a pretty shocking experience and a lot of work, you know, and your heart's got to go out to them and they've got to deal with their own stress. So I said, let's do a study with the parents. So with the mothers in the Thinking Mothers Revolution, we had them they had to do at least one session a day for 10 minutes. And they had to do it somewhere where their child would see them using it. Because the biggest thing they said was, I don't think my kids would use that. After the third day, 100% of the mother's children asked to do the BrainTap because they saw the parents doing it. And I'm a firm believer that, and this is what happened in our family, that when we saw my dad doing something, that's one thing, but when he got the whole family doing it, our whole family learned and grew together and changed. And we grew up in a town called Battle Creek, Michigan, which is the very first health food store in America was there. Dr. Kellogg was there. And so we were kind of made fun of in school, but I was a great athlete, so it didn't matter to me. But they said I would replace Yule Gibbons in the Grape Nuts commercials, if anybody out there remembers Yule Gibbons. And because I ate health food back then, you know, back in the 70s, nobody was doing that, but we were, because we needed to. We know that there's a connection between diet as well as your mind. You can't. I tell people you can't just do the mental part and then eat garbage. You've got to fuel the brain with the good foods, and then it'll make it happen faster too.
It's like driving a car on one wheel versus four wheels. You get there more efficiently. And that's, I think, what we want to do about health and wellness is how do we navigate through life as efficiently as possible? We're going to have hiccups, but we're going to have a flat tire, but the sooner we can replace that, we get more efficient. And so I love this whole person health talk. So when I think about my regiment, when I'm on my A day, and I want to be totally transparent, I've not been as mindful about using my BrainTap as I was the first few years after my accident, my concussion. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to, especially rehearing the science again. And plus, Patrick has a new headset that I'm going to order. So we have some headsets at our office if you're interested in it. Patrick, so on this show, we like to celebrate, guide, connect, which provide hope. So you're providing people hope for a different way, especially with anxiety and depression, or maybe autistic children. You mentioned having over 1,000 guided meditations. I know I've used the ones for focus, concentration, sleep, just really trying to be my best self. I kind of stuck to those ones, especially as I was having trouble sleeping initially. So I want you to share a little bit about the immune system, because you know, we started the show with COVID. So we're celebrating you, we're celebrating BrainTap. And once again, I've been in this space a long time. It's a wonderful device, wonderful technology. So talk about the immune system, how it helps it.
Well, they call it psychoimmunology. So that means in the 70s, they coined that term because what happens is when you think a thought, there's a corresponding chemical reaction that happens in the body. It's not just a random thought. Your body, in order for you to process that thought, if you can't process that thought, then you've got bigger problems. They call it, mental disorder. So, but most people have this feeling about it. So what we know is that we have a circulating nervous system. It's called white marker cells. These killer cells are always circulating through our system. And we know, and most of you probably know this as well, that we have COVID in our body all the time. It's just that our body, the white marker cells take care of it. We also have cancer in our body all the time, but the white marker cells take care of that. So what happens if we have an overreactive immune system, then we have something, a different kind of deficiency. That's why you know this by foods that don't agree with you. If you're allergic to a certain food, if you eat it, your eyes will water, your nose will run. That's your body overproducing white marker cells to kill it off because it doesn't have the balance. So there's a delicate balance between our thoughts. That's why early on I said, don't watch the news, as much. I mean, you want to be informed, but don't be consumed by the news because you will be consumed by it, in the process. So we know that's why even Buddha said, he who angers you conquers you. So when you think about it, anger, all negative emotions, think of them all. And there's one thing they all have in common. That one common thing that they all have is they have lack of breathing, lack of movement. So in all joyful, loving, embracing emotions, they all have breathing. A lot of them have deep breathing. Like when you're really laughing, you have the deep belly breathing. That triggers your immune system to turn on those healthy cells. There's been so many studies showing that if you have a terminal illness, if you start watching movies that are funny and, humorous and laughing, your body will actually kick up and start taking care of that illness because that's what our body's designed to do. And it can do it in a heartbeat. So what we're experiencing now, unfortunately, is a lot of fear, not a lot of solution. So shows like this are like a guiding light for people to show them there's a different way. And some people are trained and they're just optimistic all the time, and that's okay. But those people that are pessimistic and negative all the time, they're shutting down, they're constantly sick. There are people that, when I go to the stores here, and we don't have to wear masks, so I don't, but there are people that do. And I'm thinking, their fear of it, when Job said in the Bible, what I fear greatly has come upon me, that there's a lot of truth in that. Neuroscience is proving that to be true. What you think about, you bring about, in other words. So that's all part of the key. And there's nothing that's disassociated. Like your thoughts aren't disconnected from your body. Your body, in order for you to process a thought, this is where the subconscious comes in, because we think a thought up here, we know what we want to do, but if we haven't made the change in our body, that's where that heart center comes from. And that's where the relaxation comes in. That's why with BrainTap or any other meditation, we want to really get the body relaxed. Once the body's relaxed, now the brain can influence the body. 70% of your nervous system is in your brain, but the keyboard to the brain is your spine. And that's why movement, people doing Tai Chi, yoga, in fact, dance, those three right there, when we scan people who are yoga teachers or Tai Chi masters or this kind of ballroom dancing, they all score the best in our HRV. And when we know the HRV stands for heart rate variability, for those who don't know that, they now know the gold standard for measuring your health is how well is your heart incoherent or communicating with your brain. There's twice as much information going from your heart to your brain than your brain to your heart. Now, what happens when you get stressed out, angry, upset, fearful, and we do a scan with you, we know that communication isn't there. In fact, if we get a bad scan, usually somebody will say, they're very negative. They never have a good day. They're super, they're just pessimistic all the time. And I always tell people, because I've been called, I'm an internal optimist. I'm too positive. And I said, well, I'd rather be disappointed every once in a while than wake up every morning disappointed. That's the way people kind of operate. But your brain, the way you think, is so important in the way your body expresses itself. Your body just doesn't show up. In fact, you might have heard it said that our body is, every morning when we get up, it's like stepping into a river. It's never the same twice. But every second you are different. You are new and different. So at a rate of about 50 million cells per second, you're changing, even during this call. And it's all being done by that powerful part of your subconscious that if you had to do it, we're too busy. We would forget which cell to create. So there's an innate intelligence, right, that controls these functions. And if we relax our conscious mind, like through processes like BrainTap or meditation or Tai Chi and these things, then what happens is now the subconscious and conscious can get coherent. They can communicate, and you can get those wishes and dreams to manifest into physical space and time because you're giving it time. Time is not on the wall as a clock. That's why Einstein said if you're around a beautiful woman for an hour, it seems like a minute. If you're sitting on a hot stove for a minute, it seems like an hour. It's really, what are we doing? So we want to be in flow. And what's happened now, unfortunately, with COVID is nobody's in flow, or very few people are, because we're locked in our homes, or we have to go out and wonder what's going on out there in the country and things like that. It's better to be carefree. That's why they say be like a child, get a new mind. In other words, have a new mind every morning. That's the key.
Well, you've given us a lot of guidance today. Patrick, you also have a podcast, and you want to say the name of it so we can put it in the show notes?
Yeah, we have two different podcasts, actually. If you're a business owner, we have one called BrainTap Business Journal Podcast. If you're into the wellness space, you can go to that. Or we have BrainTap Radio, where we bring you some of our just mainline influencers that are helping people out there in the world that have a voice that we feel like we need to help share and propagate. And they can go on Facebook, if they go to BrainTap Tech on Facebook, they'll see our site there. We usually post all the show notes and links to our podcast there. And they can catch everything that's happening on that place.
Well, there's so many wonderful things you can do to be well, but there's some things you must do to stay well. And one of it is really taking care of your mind. So I wanted to give you some extra guidance. I would encourage you, and Laura we'll have in the show notes how you can reach with Laura. It's also on the chat, because Eleanor's doing a great job taking care of that for us. I would encourage you to go to that. But tomorrow you'll have the show notes from today's show that'll have the one pager that has all these links on it. Thanks, Eleanor and Zach. I want to talk about something I do, and a lot of you may not. When I adjust people, Patrick, I rub their ears. And some people say, oh, ow, that hurts, especially if like maybe their C-spine's out, or their cervical, their neck, or their low back. And then I adjust if I rub their ears, like, oh, it's better. So something you could do for yourself and your kids is rub your ears. If you're feeling anxious, or if you just want to stay well, rub your ears. That's a good idea. So there's I see you doing that, Mark. Keep doing that. And it is such a good tool. So many people love it. And it's a great thing to do, once again, for yourself and your kids. I want to encourage you to reach out to Laura, and she can get you set up so you can have access to the app as part of our family. And we would love to share more with you about it. Patrick, you've been a wealth of information today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And also, when they do get that free time you're giving them, they'll get one of my books, Thrive and Overdrive, at no cost. So they can, when they get that link, not only do you get free access to the app, but there's a book called Thrive and Overdrive, which will tell you a lot about how to handle your environment. And Mark, that might help you on the anxiety question you have.
Yeah. So as we're going to start to wrap up the show, so feel free to share any love you'd like to in there. I want to remind you that we'll be back here on this Friday, with Cynthia Newsom, who's a local TV personality and is just a wonderful soul friend of mine. And she'll be sharing part of her journey about how she's built rhythm and resilience during this time. And then we'll go with a couple shows next week. Then we'll start to go to Wednesday Wisdom. And what's going to be great is you guys are going to get here this live for joining us. And then the show will come out the following week. I know you've heard something good today. If you feel compelled to share it, that would be totally awesome. Let's change the world. Let's get people really dialing in on doing what they can do. There's things, and I want to tell you, Dr. Porter, I'm wearing a mask, and I would tell you, if you've not been out much, I would suggest if they're going to require to wear a mask, I would do it around your house a little bit, because it does give you it gives me a little bit of anxiety when I first wore it to the grocery store. And I'm wearing it at my office for a couple reasons. One, I think people appreciate that. And I am not going to be in fear, false evidence appearing real. I'm just going to live in the here and now right now. And I'm going to do all these positive things. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep eating. I'm drinking some hot lemon water right now. I'm going to keep talking to people like Dr. Porter to help keep me inspired to not get stuck in what's some of the noise out in the world. I want to tell you, I really don't know the truth. If anybody knows the truth, please call me, because I've got people that are on the right side, and I got people on the left side. And the good news is I'm a bridge. So I'm hearing both sides, and I'm as confused as ever, but I do know for a fact that the body is a self-healing machine. You got to put the right stuff in your mind, the right stuff in your heart, the right stuff in your body, and you got to move it. And that's the quadrants of well-being. So Patrick, you've been once again awesome. I want to, Laura, do you want to come on for 2 seconds? I want to introduce you to Laura Fitzsimmons, our nurse educator.
Good afternoon.
Laura, talk just for not very long, talk for about 60 seconds how you use BrainTap in your own healing journey.
Well, actually, I started out when it was Porter Vision years and years ago.
Yeah.
So I have that headset. It does not have the red and blue lights in the ears. It just has the blue. I started out because my mom brain was crazy, and I tried to meditate, and it frustrated me because I couldn't make a sacred place for myself. So I put on the whole headset, and I didn't care about the vision and the audio feedback. It was just the fact that this was my time and it created my space. And then I started getting educated in what it actually was doing for me. So I kind of started that way. I've also used it on my autistic child with a lot of success and getting his brain to quit being that popcorn popping that's all over the place and actually being able to organize himself a little bit better. So
That's great. Congratulations. That's super.
Thank you.
So yeah, Laura's great. And I want to tell you, I love this technology. And if I had my magic wand, everybody would give it a shot and see how it works for you, whether it's for your sleep, whether it's for hormones, whether it's because you're addicted to nicotine or alcohol, or maybe you just don't believe in yourself. So I love the technology. And once again, I've done neurofeedback. I've done this new thing recently. And I think everything has value, but what I love it, I could do it in my own home. And there's nothing like being able to do it in your own home, because the most important thing we have is time. And I'm grateful that you've all taken time to share with me today. You've been sharing with me over the last few weeks. And so Patrick, I want to share with you how you've inspired us today. Eleanor says it's been energizing. She's going to pass this on to some friends. I know Mark's had some ahas today, as he's been so vulnerable and transparent the last month of his struggles. And I want to tell you, you inspire me because you keep pushing the envelope. And I'm so grateful for people like you that have the wires up here that connect the way they do. I have no problem with this connection right here, but to think about all that science just doesn't happen for me. So thank you for saying yes and joining me on Small Changes, Big Shifts today.
Well, this is great. Well, thank you. My mission is to affect 1 billion brains, and you're all helping me do that. So.
Well, hey, I'm trying to affect a billion people too, so we're doing it together today.
Yep, we're doing it together. That's what I'm looking for. I can't do it alone, that's for sure. So
no one goes it alone, not even Jesus. All right, you guys, have a great week. I'll see you on Friday with Fun Friday with Cynthia Newsom. All right, blessings to all of you. Heart to heart hugs.